Hey, what I want to talk to you about right now is how to factor polynomials, and there are procedures that you have to follow in order. And so the first thing I want to talk about is factoring with, the very first thing you've got to do is always try to factor out the GCF. No matter what I'm going to tell you after this, the first thing you want to try to do is factor out the GCF. So let's just in this video just concentrate on that. So this first example, -6 g squared plus 12g to the fourth minus 9g to the third. The first thing you want to look at are the numbers. So if we look at -6 and 12 and -9, I usually take the negative out if the first term has a, hang on. I didn't see this. What we want to do first here is to put this polynomial in order. So I'm going to put this in the order 12g to the fourth and then minus 9g to the third and then minus 6g squared. You want your powers to be in descending order, so you want your fourth, then your third, then your square. Okay, so now, since my first term is not negative, I'm okay with not factoring out a negative. But we need to think about a number that goes into 12, 9, and 6. And a number that goes into all three of those numbers is 3. And that's the largest number that divides into all three of those numbers. If you look at your variables, g to the fourth, g cubed, and g squared, you want to take, since they all have g's in them, g is a common factor, and what you want to do is take the smallest power, because we're essentially saying that all three of those terms have a g squared in common. So that's my GCF. 3g squared is my GCF. Now, I factor that out, so I've got to put the rest of the numbers inside the parenthesis that will give me my initial polynomial. So to get a 12, I put a 4 here. I need to get g to the fourth, so I need 2 more g's. Okay, so that gives me my first term, 3g squared times 4g squared equal 12g to the fourth. Now put your minus sign down because that's what we're seeing right here. I factored a 3 out of 9, so I need to have another 3 there. I factored out 2 g's and I need 3, so I need 1 more. So if you multiply 3g squared times 3g, that you see that gives you the minus 9g to the third. Now take my minus, write my minus down again, and I need to get 6. So 3 times 2 is 6, and I need g squared, but I've already got a g squared, so that's all I need to write down. So 3g squared times -2 does give me the -6g squared. Let me try another one. So let's see. Okay, my second example is this one. It's 9p squared plus 27p to the third minus 18p to the fourth. Again, looking at your numbers, your coefficients, 9, 27, and 18, the number that goes into all three of those, the largest number that goes into all three of those is 9. If we look at the variables, p squared, p to the third, and p to the fourth, they all have p's in them, and again, I take the lowest power of my variable. All of them have 9p squared in them, so I factor that out. That's my GCF. Now, I need to put in parentheses what I have left. So I factored out a 9p squared. My first term is exactly that, so I factored everything out. So I put a 1 down. so that I can get that 9p squared when I multiply everything out. Moving now to my sign, so that's a plus sign. I factor a 9 out of 27, so that leaves me with a 3, and I factored p squared out of p cubed, so I need another p to make p cubed. You see how that gives me 27p to the third power? Now putting my sign here, which is a minus, 9 times 2 is 18, and p squared times p squared is p to the fourth. So again, if I multiply that times 9p squared times negative 2p squared, I do get the negative 18p to the fourth. Okay, so let me show you one more of those. Now for my third GCF example, my problem is x to the fifth plus x squared. Okay, so there are understood ones in front of these x's, so there's really nothing to factor out in terms of a number. I mean, you can factor a 1 out if you like, but you don't have to do that. So really the only thing I'm looking at here are my variables, and again, they both have x's in them, so I take out an x and I take out the lowest power because that'll be what they have in common. So I'm take my GCF this time is simply x squared, and I'm going to multiply by what I need to be able to get my original polynomial. So since I took out x squared, I have 3 more x's left, and you see how if you multiply, that does give you x to the fifth. Now put your sign down, which is your plus sign here, and then I took out x squared from my x squared, so I need a 1 there to hold that space because I want to be able to multiply that through and get my x squared. And so what you're seeing is that when you take out the GCF and multiply things through, you should end up getting the original polynomial. And the parenthesis where you write everything that's left should be totally reduced. There shouldn't be anything in there that you can factor out anymore.